I will invite our keynote speaker, Angeli Patel. Angeli is the director of Berkeley Center of Law and Business. Angeli is a leader in corporate strategy, innovation, and global governance around AI. She has advised global government, federal agencies, and NGOs on AI governance and sustainability. Let's put our hands together to welcome Angeli on stage.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? Good. Okay. Yeah. It's really good to see everyone here. My name's Angeli Patel. You see my background, executive director at Berkeley Center for Law and Business and all this fun stuff. You can find me on LinkedIn, but I'll promise you're not going to see some of the more important things that I do in my life on LinkedIn, which are actually be a dog mom, be a plant mom, and kind of just enjoy hiking. Raise your hand if you're from the Bay Area here. Okay, so you know what I mean when I say enjoy hiking then. Raise your hand if you have a pet. All right, so you know what I mean when I say that is a very important part of your life. I am here to talk to you a little bit about sustainability, ESG, and kind of set the stage for some of the discussions that will happen here today. Raise your hand if you're familiar with ESG. A little bit, okay. I'm going to do a couple of raise hands because I want to get to know the audience a little bit before I start talking at you at things that perhaps don't mean anything. So any founders in the room? Raise your hand. Okay, good bit. Investors, I know that you're here. Yes, great. Any board members? All right, okay. All right, so we have and academics. I'm looking at one over there, yes. All right, so thank you for sharing a little bit about yourself. I come to this work because I'm from a rural town myself. Luau's story really resonates with me. We connected over this. I'm from Dublin, Georgia. My family immigrated from India. They're from a small town in India somewhere that you probably don't know. And I come to sustainability from the lens of inequality, climate change, and immigration. All of these things are connected. I had the privilege of graduating from Georgia Tech from undergrad, where I studied international relations, where I changed my life. I went on to go work at the Obama White House, working on, at the time, no one called it sustainability or ESG or anything like that, but we called it good governance, and helping the US government essentially be better as an employer, as an innovator, as a service delivery organization, as whatever you want to call it. And then I found myself in the law, and I've been practicing law and advising companies since then on things called sustainability and ESG. And in my time, I realized that there's a little bit of a misconception around what we think sustainability is really about. I think there was a time, perhaps maybe 10, 20 years ago, when sustainability and ESG were seen as maybe corporate social responsibility. And that term, I don't think, has permeated well across the world. I think it has tended to mean be better, do good, maybe do less harm to the world or society around you. And I think those are really great aspirations to achieve. I think they're very important things for companies to think about. But as I started to advise more companies, as I started to talk to investors who were looking for a return on their investment, or startup founders who just needed to raise that next round so they could survive, or as I started to see public companies needing to report to their investors their quarterly earnings, I quickly realized doing good is a nice to have for a lot of people. So how do we build a world where doing good or doing less harm isn't a nice to have, that it's a necessary to have? Enter the picture of where we are today. Climate change, AI threatening to create more income disparity, more technological disparity across the world, social inequality, political polarization. I'm a law professor, so I can talk to you about this for a very long time, but I won't. But what I will say is the world is getting more complex. And at the center of all of that complexity happens to be this thing called the corporation. This thing where people take a risk and decide, I'm going to just start a business, and I'm going to innovate, and I'm going to try to build a solution. I hope you realize that you're taking a huge risk, and you're one of the few. You're one of the few that's sitting there trying to create a solution in a very, very tough world. And when you're trying to build this solution, For those board members in the room, when you're advising, one thing I ask is that you ask not just about how that company is going to do good or how that company is going to reduce its harm, but how is that company going to innovate for the long term? That's the definition of sustainability today. It's about endurance. It's about resilience. It's about lasting. There are a lot of forces at play that will say the solution will not work. There are a lot of reasons why a solution may not scale. There will constantly be reasons why people might not want to invest in your company. And you know what? It's their prerogative, and perhaps your company might not scale. But that is no reason not to keep trying. And there's no reason not to keep trying to endure. Some of the best solutions that have scaled around the world started off, and it took 10 years. I think about companies like Patagonia that have a positive social output, that have good products, that have innovated in their supply chains. And it is those kinds of companies that took a very long time to take off. I think about Cliff Bar. These are companies right here in Oakland that are creating great products, healthy products, things that help the world but also create employment. Slowing down, building for the long term is what sustainability is about today. It is not just about climate. It is not just about ESG or social responsibility. It is about creating value over a longer period of time for your stakeholders. And so I wanted to leave the room with just a couple of calls to actions, maybe a couple of things that might matter. If you're sitting on a board, this is for the board members in the room, I sit on a board, we have to start asking questions around long term. It's so simple and so easy to want to know, so where is this going to go? Where's your next customer going to come from? Is there a product market fit? Very important questions to ask. But then ask, where does this need to go in 10 years, in 12 years? Maybe more than 5 years. Let's ask for the long-term horizon. Let's also ask questions around what is needed today infrastructurally for companies to take them there. Board members have so much power. As investors, you have so much power. There is an important voice that needs to be coming from there that empowers founders not to fall into the forces of short-termism. And it is a tall order. I understand that. It is a tall order, but it doesn't hurt to be the voice. You don't have to follow the advice. Just ask the questions. That's your job. For the academics and for the innovators in the room, start to ask hard questions. I know you're already making hard decisions, but those decisions are rooted in questions that have already been asked. Try to ask the hard question of, does this solution mean something in the long term? Does this solution mean something to the world? Does it mean something to the questions that we're trying to answer that haven't been answered yet? And don't be afraid to change your answer. Don't be afraid to say, oh, okay, I think I'm capturing value from the market, but I want to create value. Try to know the difference between those two things. And finally, this is we live in a time where our ecosystem is experiencing hyper competition. AI is on the move. There's a lot of capital available if you have an AI solution, very little available if you have a climate solution. But if you have a climate AI solution, maybe that's the hotspot. Just kidding. Not a joke. But when you are building as innovators, and this one's for you, as you're building, there's going to be a lot of pressure to get acquired, or perhaps the exit isn't what you thought it might be. But I'm here to tell you, my job is to study the public markets. And if we really, really care about income inequality, if you really, really care about spreading solutions, about closing the gap of technology, closing the gaps that we will start to see widen over the years, then build for IPO. I know that's a tall order too, but build for IPO. Build for IPO because that's where your solution will reach the most people, your investments will reach the most people. It's a tall order because sustainability is not natural in a capitalist society. It is very, very difficult to think 10-year return when you could think 2-year return, maybe 1 year or 6-month return. It is very difficult when our quarterly reporting systems for public companies set the tone for everyone, including private companies, including startups. Which is why I ask you to be the disruptor, as you already feel comfortable being, and ask hard questions, invest in longer-term models, and be the companies that are willing to stick it out a longer period of time. One of the biggest ills I have learned as I have studied the way governments and NGOs and companies alike try to solve things like social issues, climate change, now increasingly AI-related social disparity. The biggest challenge these folks have is thinking that social impact is an outcome. But social impact is not an outcome. If you build into your business model the desire to change whatever it is that you're trying to change, and you build into your business metrics that help you measure your impact, you are not only scaling your solution, but you're scaling that impact with you. So as I close this speech out, I just want to leave this room with 1 or 2 points. 1, build from the beginning for a social outcome. And 2, build for IPO, so that when you get big and when you do make it, that social outcome is reachable across the markets, across the global markets. We're going to be having a lot of discussions today. I will share a little bit more about what ESG and sustainability have meant over the years. But I just want all of you to know that there is a world in which you innovate for value. You can also make money. You can also be a capitalist. But you can also create solutions that scale and create solutions that close the gap for the rest of the world. So thank you.
Thank you, Angeli. That was so inspiring.